Housing Alliance, with the Coalition for Housing, with the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and glad to see everybody today on this beautiful, well, it was a beautiful June day, maybe it was a beautiful June day again. We're going to start with introductions, and I'd ask the people in the room, so I'm going to raise my hand so you know where I'm sitting. I'll ask the people in the room to introduce themselves as well, and we're going to start to my left. We go first to Joe Marie, and then around the room. Who are you? What organization do you represent, and what do you hope to get done this month?
Joe Marie Morris, Executive Director for the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing. I am finishing up some landscaping around a new deck.
Oh, right.
I'm Justin Voss with First Homes. I'm hoping to break ground on a new building in Charles.
Great.
Jim Miner, I'm not sure what I want to get done this month.
I'm Megan Cedar for Three Rivers Community Action, and I'm finishing up multifamily after Metro Phase for project here in Rochester.
I'm going to Bigelow Homes, hoping to get a new suit for my buddy's wedding.
Right.
Being a happy day of realty, and I'm hoping to sell more homes for these two guys on that side here.
I see, okay.
I like that idea. So I'm Mike Paradise, Bigelow Homes, still not coalition. I'm just hoping the rain holds off and we can get some more grass.
Dave Reichert, Independent Energy, I've got some dead trees to take down, gotta get that.
Mary O'Neill with Homestead County Housing Department. I don't know, it's a project on my.
Nick Abbott from Damascus Way Reentry Center, and I think hopefully I can get the rest of my yard cleaned up so I can actually use that.
Here again, City of Rochester, I'll say in 3 hours of running it, I agree to run that right now for summer, and I haven't been training, so I probably do that.
I'm Randy Schubring, candidate for Rochester City Council President, and I'm looking forward to knocking on 2,000 doors this month.
All right. Oh, okay. Can we go up to you first, Kayla?
Sure. Hi everyone, Kayla Betzel, Sustainability Coordinator with the City of Rochester. I am excited to get some family lake time in without getting rained out.
Jennifer?
Good morning, I'm Jen Woodford with Rochester Area Foundation and First Homes. And I am hoping I can see some blooms on the flowers that I planted, the seeds, before the deer eat them all. We'll see, I think it's a losing battle.
I've been there and done that, yes. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Ferraro. I'm with First Alliance Credit Union, and I have a whole bunch of things I want to get done at work. So we're going through a conversion to add more products for loans. That should help our committee too. And then also we're hiring for a couple lending positions I'd like.
Wonderful. Sandy, now you can really talk.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy Casley, and I'm with Olmsted County Planning, and I'm hoping to get out in the kayak before the end of the month.
Sounds good. Dave?
Dave Beal at Age-Friendly Olmsted County and Family Service Rochester. I'll be sitting on the deck watching the garden I planted grow.
Don't insert yourself. Matthew?
Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Douglas Ney with the Center for Energy and Environment. I'm the program manager for our Electrify Everything initiative that I'm excited to talk about with y'all today. And I am actually going to Sweden next week on a vacation, so hoping that goes smooth.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Mark?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Engel with the Olmsted County Housing Department. And kind of like Mary, I have a very long list of work stuff, but primary of those is a successful bid on 10 single-family homes.
Brett?
Hi, good morning. Brent Slimby, City of Rochester Community Development Department. Just hoping to finish up a bathroom remodel this month.
Nancy?
Morning, Nancy Sawarsky, Southeast Minnesota. Together, hope to lay a few rolls of sod before the rain starts today.
We'll try to get our meeting over quickly.
Yeah, good.
Or if you disappear, we'll know. Al?
Oh, Alan, I with Open Beam and also with Community Mobilization Resource Coalition. I guess we're doing some landscaping too. It seems like there's a common thread here.
It's the season. Kathy?
Hi, Kathy Sather with Three Rivers Community Action. Hoping to not wear out my car back and forth across town, transporting pre-driving teenagers.
Terry?
Terry Smith with Two Rivers Habitat for Humanity. Hoping to finish up a home that we've been working on here in Rochester, close on another home in Owatonna, and then also continue the work we broke ground in our Chatfield property, trying to get the walls up that the Owatonna High School students helped us build here at the end of the month. So lots going on for Habitat.
Roberto? Robert?
Hi everyone, my name is Robert. Well, Pavement, I'm a mortgage banker with Midwest Bank, and what I'm looking forward to getting done this month is planning for our first family trip to Disney.
You're so for sending you and Joel's. So we hope it goes better than it evidently went from there, so. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie. I am with Next Step Administrators. I'm the Director of Operations here. And about 7 months ago, we started a siding, roofing, gutter project on 5 out of the 6 houses. And my hope and prayer is that it gets done this month.
I hope so. And April?
April Suter, I'm hoping to keep my garden going strong.
Welcome. All right, so you have the agenda before you, and our first topic is the presentation from Matthew Douglas May, and from the Center for Energy and Environment. And Hillary, did you want to do any more of an introduction on that? You got one?
I really don't have more. I had deferred to my colleague, Jeff, who has set this all up. Although I can tell you, we appreciate you being here, Matthew, and that we've been working on having this presentation for a long time. So we're very grateful for your coming.
Well, welcome, Matthew, and we need to do anything for setup for this?
I'd love to do an introduction.
Okay, love to do
The
this.
CEE is a first-class organization. They're known nationally. They do work for the state of Minnesota on researching things like heat pumps and electrification. They issue position papers, and this is a good group. So these people are not lightweights. Not somebody like me, just out of the closet. It's an established bunch. They do great work.
All right, well, that's a nice introduction.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, really excited to be here with you all. Yeah, we've been chatting with Jeff for a long time, so very glad we're making this happen. I will share my screen here. And then we can jump in. And I always like to make sure I can still see everyone when I'm presenting. So one moment. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I can pull up the chat in a little bit here. But I'll jump in. So yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I work at the Center for Energy and Environment as a community program coordinator. And one of the exciting initiatives we are working on is Electrify Everything. The goal of this program is to help simplify the process of switching from gas equipment to electric equipment in homes. We do a lot of support with homeowners who are interested in switching specific pieces of equipment, which I'll be talking about. And there are a lot of different considerations to look into. So we'll jump right in. And just to make sure, can you all hear me well?
You're coming across just fine, thank you. Now we are seeing your slide.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, my computer froze for a minute, but now I think we're looking good. So let's dive right in. So first, I'll just start with why are we talking about home electrification. Then I'll talk about the key upgrades that we focus on in homes. Then we'll dive into the Inflation Reduction Act and other incentives that are available to make these upgrades more cost effective and possible. And then I'll finish with a quick summary of the Electrify Everything offerings that our program has. We all already got a lovely introduction of CEE, so I won't dwell too long on this, but we're a nonprofit of about 200 people focused in Minnesota, but we work across the country. And our mission is to discover and deploy the most effective energy solutions that strengthen the economy and improve the environment. We do policy work, research, and I'm on our consulting and program delivery team. So, why are we talking about electrification? Why has there been so much buzz? So the headline is that there is a huge opportunity in front of us with electrification. The big one is that electrification provides a clear path to decarbonizing our housing stock. The reason for this is that the electric grid is getting cleaner. The state of Minnesota passed a law last year that will require all electricity to be carbon-free by 2040. And a lot of utilities like Rochester Public Utilities are well on their way to achieving that. So there's a clear path to carbon-free electricity. So when we switch from gas appliances to electric ones, we take advantage of that. There are also a lot of health benefits that can come with electrification. Things like, combusting gas in a home, whether that's a gas stove or a naturally drafting water heater. Those combustion gases can leak into the home and come with some health concerns, so electrification eliminates those. And then the big one, which is the main reason I'm here to speak with you all today, is there is a historic amount of incentives that are available and soon to be available for electrification. So from the state, federal government, utilities, and even some local governments are all putting resources behind these efforts. And our goal is for this program to leverage those and connect people with them. There are also some barriers to electrification. It's not all this simple swap. So a big one is public awareness. I do a lot of tabling events and community outreach for this initiative, and every single event, I have the pleasure of explaining to at least one person what a heat pump is or what a heat pump water heater is. There's a lot of this electric technology that's similar to the more traditional older equipment, but slightly different. So there's just a big awareness piece that can really be the driver for behavior change and making these choices. There can also be some hesitance around the technology, very justifiably. If you've heated your home with a furnace your entire life, switching to heating your home with a heat pump is a big step, and it's helpful to see neighbors that have gone through that process successfully, or hear from real people that that it's a good choice. There's also a higher upfront cost for these efficient electric pieces of technology. So we'll talk about the incentives that can help equalize or take away that upfront cost, the difference in upfront cost. And then finding experienced contractors who are eager and eligible to install these pieces of equipment can also be a challenge. And I'll talk about what we're doing to overcome that. So that's just to lay the groundwork. And I also want to talk quickly about what are the key electrification upgrades that we talk about with our program. We can't do it all, so what are the ones that we focus on? I also just want to caveat for this group that I'll be talking specifically about technologies suitable for single-family homes or 1 to 4 unit buildings. I won't be touching on the technical aspects of multifamily or larger commercial buildings. So to start, the biggest bang for your buck in Minnesota, if you're trying to decarbonize a single-family home, is weatherization and then electrifying the space heating. The reason for this is it's cold in the wintertime in Minnesota. Depending on the winter, we might be heating for 4 to 6 months of the year. So about 75% of the carbon emissions from a typical home come from space heating. So weatherization or insulation and air sealing brings the amount of energy needed to heat a home down, and then we talk about air source heat pumps to electrify the space heating. Everything else falls in this 25% bucket, but there's some really important quality of life and health aspects in addition to decarbonization. So the 4 main buckets that we focus on in our program is home heating and cooling, water heating, cooking, and clothes drying. So those are the biggest energy users in a home, in a typical home. And the solutions are on the right here, and I will talk through each of those now. Starting with weatherization. We usually don't think of the fluffy stuff in your attic as an electrification technology, but it is super important. The main reason is that you'd think in Minnesota, since it's cold, every home would have adequate insulation, but that is not a guarantee, especially homes built before 1980. I'm sure all of you who work in especially retrofitting older homes are aware of this. There may be nothing in the walls, or the attic may not be air sealed. You might see single pane windows. The reason for this is before 1980, there was not an energy code enforced in Minnesota, so new construction, it was up to the builder as to what they insulated with. So the benefits of insulation are, first and foremost, it's a really surefire way to lower energy bills. Heating is the biggest part of your annual energy usage, so bringing that down can be really impactful for occupants. There also is an established network of contractors with a lot of experience doing insulation work, so it's an easy one to get started with. It increases occupant comfort, so it's not just a financial choice, it can really make winter a lot more pleasant in a home, and there are a lot of available incentives for weatherization. The other key piece here is having a well-insulated and air-sealed home means that you need less heat energy to heat it, and that'll make an air source heat pump a lot more effective. So when we're talking about space heating with electricity, not all options are equal. We've all seen electric baseboards, maybe at the cabin, maybe in our own homes. These have been around forever, but they are huge energy hogs. They cause really high heating bills in the winter, and they're about 3 times less efficient than heat pump technology. So when we're talking about electrifying space heating, we're really focused on heat pump technology for the efficiency and the bill implications. So maybe a quick raise of hands. Who has heard of an air source heat pump? Cool. Seeing hands go up. So air source heat pumps are basically the same technology as air conditioners, but they're more efficient and they can run in reverse to heat your home in the wintertime and then reverse and cool your home in the summertime. And the reason we talk about air source heat pumps over ground source heat pumps or other types of heat pumps is really just that they're a pragmatic solution that is ready and the cost point is relatively similar right now. So heat pumps can fit in a lot of different homes. There are ductless mini split heat pumps that can be combined with homes with a boiler, or they can connect with a ducted system that like a furnace, for example. So they're really flexible, can fit in a lot of different home applications. The cost point is also lowest of the heat pump technology, and there is a better availability of experienced contractors, so you can be sure to get multiple quotes and choose the best one for your situation. There are also a lot of incentives for these that I'll talk about. With air source heat pumps, there are kind of 2 options. One is the dual fuel option, where you have a heat pump that provides cooling in the summer, heating in the fall and spring, and through most of the winter, and then usually you can choose the temperature. Usually it's about 20 degrees. Once it's below 20 degrees outside, you can use your secondary gas heating system, like a furnace or boiler, to heat your home. The benefit of this is the bill implications. Right now, it's cheaper in Minnesota to heat with gas below a certain temperature outside, about 20 degrees, and then it's cheaper to heat with a heat pump when it's above 20 degrees. The reason for that is the colder it gets outside, the less heat there is to pull out of the air, and the less self-sufficient the heat pump becomes. That said, it is very viable to have an all-electric heating system with a heat pump in Minnesota. So a cold, climate-rated heat pump can heat your home effectively down to -10 or beyond, and then you would just have a small electric resistance secondary heat source to provide that extra heating on the 5 or 6 days that are below -15 during the winter. So that's air source heat pumps for space heating. We also talk about heat pump water heaters for our water heating. This is the next biggest usage of energy in a home.
Let's let him do his presentation and come back, because otherwise we've got online tools.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping we'll have some good time for questions at the end. So heat pump water heaters move heat from the air around them into the water, which makes them way more efficient. They're about 4 times more efficient than a traditional water heater, and they use about 60% less energy than a traditional electric resistance water heater. So if you're switching from electric resistance to this, it will really bring your bills down. Compared to a gas water heater, the fuel cost to run the water heater is about the same, or you might save a little bit with a heat pump water heater. And again, there are big incentives for these heat pump water heaters. We also talk about cooking and clothes drying. For these, since they don't use as much energy as water heating and space heating, the traditional electric options are just as good as the higher efficiency, or a valuable option compared to the higher efficiency option. So for cooking, induction ranges get a lot of people excited. They have a really good responsiveness with cooking. People really love them. But your traditional electric range is also a good option to get the same climate benefits and health benefits. Same with clothes drying. A heat pump clothes dryer uses about 40% less energy, which is awesome. It's really gentle on your clothes, but a traditional electric dryer is also a great option. They're widely available, come in lots of different price points. So those are the options we talk about there. So that's the technology that we talk about, those kind of 5 key areas. And a big reason we focus on those is that is also where the incentives are aligned. So now I'll jump into the incentives. So the Inflation Reduction Act.
Matthew, what if we stop for a moment and let people ask their questions about the technologies before we move into the incentives?
That sounds great.
Okay, so we have one online question and we have one in the room. So the online question was, Nancy, you want to pose your question, please? Are you still with us? Okay, the online question was, are developers and contractors on board? Isn't it cheaper to build with electricity rather than retrofitting later?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can speak to the contractor piece a little bit. CE has done a lot of work to create contractor networks for these different pieces of equipment. So one example is the Air Source Heat Pump Collaboratives Preferred Contractor Network. That is a mouthful. It's a list of contractors across the state who have gone through a training program, install air source heat pumps all the time, and are experienced and well regarded. So there are a lot of contractors who see installing this electric technology as a big business opportunity, and that would apply to retrofits and new construction. As far as developers, I would kind of pose that question to folks in this room. We do see a trend towards fully electric development, but there is also kind of this hybrid option. There's a lot to consider with price points, all of that. So we can talk about that more, but I'd be curious in this room as well.
Well, actually, a developer wants to ask the next question, so.
Yeah, that's not, I didn't think I had the answer one. So I wanted to ask my question first. I mean, you talk about the all-electric heat and the dual heat systems. In the past, when we worked with that, the savings from the electric company is higher for a dual system. Is that still true?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding you correctly, it's kind of the question is, what is it going to cost to heat my home, right? And I've got gas right now, with the way rates are structured in Minnesota, in most utility applications, it's cheaper to heat with a gas source when it's below about 20 to 25 degrees outside, which is only 20 to 30% of the winter. The rest of the time, it's cheaper to use that electric heat pump because of how efficient it is at this moment.
Yeah, Matthew, my question was the off-peak power. Our local electrical companies used to give off-peak if you had a dual fuel heating system. Is that still the case, that they need a dual fuel heating system to give you the off-peak rates that really make it effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't speak to Rochester Public Utilities off the top of my head, but for example, Xcel Energy does offer an electric space heating rate, where if you demonstrate that you heat your home with electricity, you get a more favorable electric rate to bring those costs down. And then as far as like peak demand, that is also very much utility to utility. So I can follow up with after this with what Rochester Public Utilities offers.
Then I had another question for you, Matt. We had a slide here where some of our largest energy usage was the heating and cooling. And in new construction, the largest energy usage is lights and appliances. Actually, the heating and cooling combined is less than the cost of lights and appliances. Is that in your slides also for new construction?
So the number I shared was for the existing housing stock in Minnesota, so that, to your point, heating and cooling is smaller. So in these slides, no, I will not address that, but we can kind of talk about where, maybe space heating isn't a priority for you. What are the other appliances that might be more impactful?
And then as far as from a new builder standpoint, we're required to do blower door tests on our new construction homes. And actually we do energy modeling. And right now it's all paid for typically through a program from the gas companies. When you go all electric, we still have the requirement to do this testing, but it would be paid for by the gas company if we're, I think, over 50% electric. Is there any programs in place to make some changes to that?
That's a great question. I am a couple years ago, the ECO Act was passed statewide, which enables utilities across the state to incentivize fuel switching or switching from gas to electric where it's cost effective. So we're seeing some utilities starting in 2024 have adjusted their offerings to reflect that fuel switching option. So I would hope that, as utilities catch on to that and start to make their plans to comply with that would be involved. I'll talk a little bit later about tax credits that are available for building to Energy Star certification and some incentives that can also help with, building to those higher certifications.
We have another question here in the room.
I think you're talking a little bit about public education up front. If I was a developer builder and I was going to build 40 new units of some kind, and I was going to make them all electric, I think I would be really reluctant to do that because the public perception of all electric is not cheaper. It's more costly, and I might be sitting with 40 units that you tell the public is cheaper, but the public is not going to buy that for a while. An example is electric stove versus gas. Years ago, we put in all electric, and today it's mostly gas. And if the public wants a gas stove, I'm not sure why, because it's more expensive to put in gas, but they really want that gas stove today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Our program, our goal is to help people electrify where they are interested. So if you want to cook with a gas stove, I'm not here to tell you that you should get rid of your gas stove. As far as the cost, what I think a lot of anyone who's lived in a home with electric baseboard heating knows how expensive that is in the wintertime. So it's really critical that we're talking about heat pumps, especially cold climate heat pumps when we're talking about electrifying space heating to keep those So that's a big part of the discussion, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, there's a public perception that electric can be expensive. So part of this education is to talk about, with clear numbers, what is the efficiency gains you have with heat pumps, and how does that compare cost-wise? Hope that answered your question.
I wonder if we could let him finish his presentation, and we've got some questions online, but I don't, if you don't mind, I think April has a question. Well, one more question from online. There's only one more. What do you know about the Tesla Powerwall to reduce carbon use?
Yeah, that's a great question. Solar and battery storage are two things that our program does not touch. We're more focused on like what's in the home construction. The couple things I do know about battery storage is that if your utility offers a time of use rate or a peak demand rate, that can really bring your electric costs down. It can also help you leverage rooftop solar panels. So that's kind of like, I would say, the advanced topic that I won't touch on today, but I'd be happy to follow up over email.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead, Matthew, with the Inflation Reduction Act incentives.
Yeah, and I really appreciate all the questions. This is helpful for our program too, to know the questions and the angles you're bringing as developers and other housing advocates. So let's talk about incentives. The main buckets of incentives that are available right now are the IRA tax credits. Those have been available since the beginning of 2023. Then there are the IRA rebates. Those are not available yet, but are expected to be available late this year or next year. The state of Minnesota also passed rebates to add on to those IRA rebates, so those should be released on a similar timeline, and then utility rebates. And I'll talk about each of these. So the first one is for the IRA tax credits. The 25C tax credit is for homeowners. So this applies to homeowners and only their primary residents, so not property owners or landlords. But this covers up to 30% of the project cost up to a specific cap. So you can see here, for example, air source heat pumps qualify for up to a $2,000 tax credit. And this applies to heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, insulation and air sealing, and electrical upgrades. These buckets also have annual caps. So say you were to install a heat pump and a heat pump water heater in the same year, you could only get $2,000 total for those two. But if you installed them in separate years, you could get $2,000, up to $2,000 each year. That's one nuance with these specific tax credits. A tax credit that is more relevant to property owners and developers is the 45L home builder tax credit. And this very simply is up to $2,500 tax credit for homes built to the Energy Star single family new home certification. There's a similar tax credit for manufactured homes and multi-family homes who also need the Energy Star certifications for those building types. Many of you might be familiar with this, but this just comes with higher requirements for things like wall insulation, windows, doors. HVAC needs to be all high efficient, water heating, and then the appliances need to be efficient as well. So if you're interested in higher performing home development, this can be a good tax credit there. So those are the two tax credits. Those are available now. Now I'll talk about the IRA rebates, which are currently being developed by the state of Minnesota. So the Inflation Reduction Act was a federal policy passed in 2022, and the tax credits were kind of the piece of it that were available right away. And then the other piece is that states have the ability to apply for funds to administer rebates. So I just want to caveat that the state of Minnesota is determining their guidelines right now, and some of this may change, but this guidance is from the federal government. So the IRA rebates are available for homeowners and landlords with occupants that meet the income limits. So households making less than 80% of area median income qualify for a higher rebate, and then households making between 80% and 150% of area median income qualify for half that rebate. And it's a pretty long list of technology that falls under this. So heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, insulation and air sealing, electric panel upgrades, electric wiring upgrades, induction stoves and electric stoves, and heat pump clothes dryers. So you can imagine this can really stack, and the goal with all of this is that you can stack these different buckets of incentives. So this is really exciting. The state of Minnesota is actually having their first webinar this afternoon to gather stakeholder input on how they should shape these rebates and deliver them. So we're gearing up, and hopefully they'll be ready by the end of the year, early next year. The other piece is state of Minnesota rebates. So the Inflation Reduction Act passed, and the state of Minnesota last year decided, let's add on to those incentives to further make these improvements more cost effective. So we would expect these to go live at a similar time as the IRA rebates do, and they follow similar income guidelines. The air source heat pump for cold climates incentive is up to $4,000, and it requires that your home is properly insulated before you can get this. The reason for that is heat pumps are much more effective and efficient in a fully insulated home. The state grant for electric panel upgrades is also really significant. A panel upgrade for the electrical system can be a big barrier, especially for retrofits of older homes. So the goal here is to bring that cost down. And then utility rebates have been around for a while, but as I mentioned earlier with the ECO Act, many utilities are updating their incentives for these for insulation and these electric technologies. So these are just a few examples of what Rochester Utilities and Minnesota Energy Resources offers as far as rebates. So for heat pumps, it's up to $2,200 from Rochester Public Utilities. It depends on the heating system that you're starting with. There's also different stipulations for new construction. And then heat pump water heaters is up to $400. So this would stack on top of those other ones. And then for insulation, it really depends on the part of your home you're insulating, but you can get up to a little over $1,800, which can really bring that project cost down. So that I will follow up with these slides after the presentation, so no need to feel like you need to memorize the dollar amounts or where these funding sources come from. I also just want to share a couple examples of what this could look like in practice. So these are hypothetical scenarios, but on the left, we have an owner-occupied home that is doing this work now in the current, like what we have available today. So they're installing a cold climate heat pump to heat and cool their home. The upfront cost is $14,000 minus an $1,800 rebate from Rochester Public Utilities and the $2,000 federal tax credit. They would land with just over $10,000 as their final cost. And this would be for someone of any income that is a homeowner. Here's another scenario for next year. Obviously, the caveat is the state has to finalize these programs, but this would be a renter-occupied home where the owner makes these upgrades. So if the tenants are below 80% of area median income and you're installing a $1,400 cold climate heat pump, you'd get that RPU rebate, you'd get the $4,000 federal rebate, a $4,000 state rebate, and that comes down to $4,200 at the end. So these incentives can be really significant. They're tied to households with lower incomes. That's important, but it can really bring the project costs down. And that's what I have for incentives. Any other questions before I wrap up with some of the services our program offers?
I have a question here in the room. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, so I see you talking about air sealing and insulation. Does that include, upgrading windows?
That does not. No, so like this rebate and all the rebates I mentioned is specifically for insulation and air sealing. So that's wall insulation, attic insulation and air sealing, and then rim joist and foundation insulation.
It's interesting.
Mike?
Matthew, on all your rebates, there's nothing about new construction. Is new construction eligible for these rebates?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So for the IRA rebates, the state has indicated that new construction will be eligible. They're currently determining the guidelines. So this is really the biggest bucket of incentives, and it's very promising that new construction would qualify. There will just be more details about how can you certify that the occupants will meet the income qualifications.
I have a question. I'm sorry, go ahead. Didn't let you went down.
Yeah, and then so the only incentive I talked about where new construction likely is not eligible is the 25C tax credit. But this 45L tax credit, the goal is to kind of supplement that.
We're aware of that. But it's that, the other rebates that I'm interested in, but you're saying it'll be late this year or next year before we even hear anything about that.
Yeah, so the state of Minnesota has submitted their application to the Department of Energy, and now they are kind of doing the final work to get ready to launch the rebates, and yeah, we're expecting them late this year, early next year.
Because we do have some projects coming up that'll have some income limitations. So that's the perfect avenue for us to qualify for these rebates. Hopefully they get it out soon enough.
My question is kind of similar. Are you aware of any effort to work with, for instance, the community action agencies that do weatherization, or with HRAs that are working with NOAA projects, so that the homeowner gets the benefit, gets access to this? Do you know of any coordination that's underway?
Yeah, really like all the conversations I'm in are like, how do we stack all these different programs, buckets of funding? One thing I would encourage is, so today, the Department of Commerce of Minnesota is starting their stakeholder input process. So if you are a community action agency or representative of different housing groups, engaging in that stakeholder input would have a direct impact on how these rebates are rolled out and aligned with different programs. So in a follow-up email, I can send the link to that. But that'd be my suggestion for making sure these rebates align.
Go ahead.
Dave Riker here. I followed it closely enough to know that the term aggregator has popped up. And from the people I've talked to at the state, the aggregators are indeed those people you just mentioned, the weatherization groups. Those are naturals to them, right? They need to find people who have an established track record of being able to organize the work, find eligible people, install it, but do that whole thing. Don't know who that's meant to include at this point, but why not? A housing coalition, right?
Well, I'm also thinking of the work that the funds that the city and the county put aside for NOAA, and those folks are all low income homes, forgivable loans, and
Yeah, we're tracking our connecting with those residents. I would assume there's no concern with anything. But, yeah.
Simcac and Three Rivers, Two Rivers, I'm sorry, I always have confused, would be naturals, right? Because they have 3 years done weatherization.
So Semcat, Three Rivers, the Community Land Trust, and then the why am I blocking the name of our NOAA projects?
program?
Pardon?
RDI program?
Right, yes. So, okay, well, good to know. Jim?
Go back to the slide where it shows the amount of rebates for renters. And I have a rumor that I've heard that in some locations, owners who are been in their house for many years are establishing an LLC, and then they're renting their home back from their LLC. So keep that in mind, that if I'm a renter, I can get a lot of money. If I need a new, furnace or air conditioner, I can put one in probably cheaper after the incentives than I can before if I'm a renter. So I rent my house to my LLC.
There are even easy ways to track that, right? If you're gonna apply for these funds.
The city of Rochester. I'm relatively new in this position. I started at the end of April, so I've been in the job for about 6 weeks. So I'll do my best to answer your questions, and if I can't, I'll follow up afterwards. But I'm here today to share a quick update on sustainability at the city of Rochester, and talk a little bit about our priorities for this year, and then some federal funding that we're receiving. So here's an overview of our sustainability targets. We have greenhouse gas emission reduction goals that were updated in 2022. They're science-based targets that align with the Paris Climate Accord, which is a 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from 2007 levels by 2030 and 100% reduction by 2050. We also have mode shift goals for our transportation sector, which is a shift of 50% of commuter trips to Rochester's downtown by modes other than single occupancy vehicles by 2040. And so if any of you have heard of the city's LINK bus rapid transit project, we are developing an all-electric bus that will take people from kind of outside of the downtown area into downtown. It'll be every 5 to 10 minutes. And that project is in development now, should be completed in 2026, and open for service in 2026. So we're hoping that reduces single vehicle travel to downtown. And then also Rochester Public Utilities has a goal of 100% net renewable energy by 2030. So that will certainly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Right now, we're seeing, this is a snapshot of our greenhouse gas emissions. The orange is building energy, the green is vehicle travel, and then the purple is waste. And we've seen a reduction of 16% since 2007. When you break down our emissions a little bit further, we're seeing that almost 3/4 of the community's greenhouse gas emissions are from energy used in buildings. So this is natural gas and electricity used for everything from lighting and appliances to heating and cooling buildings. And then we're seeing a majority of that coming from our commercial and industrial sector. So we really are focusing on buildings and transportation. I think we know that buildings and transportation are large emission sectors in most cities, and that's the same with Rochester. So we're really looking at electrification of our building sectors, energy efficiency for both residential and commercial sectors, and then increasing vehicle electrification as well, and encouraging electric vehicles. So looking at our 2024 priorities, I'm new, and so one of my priorities is really just putting some work into visioning and strategic planning for the department, the sustainability division. The sustainability division sits within city administration, and it includes myself, a full-time employee for the city. We also have a partnership with Destination Medical Center, and so there's a full-time employee over there focusing on sustainability and energy. We have 2 Luther interns that support the division. They're doing research for us, and they're newly full-time since one graduated and one is on summer break. So they're supporting our work. We have one city intern that's here for the summer supporting marketing and communications work. And then we also have a Department of Energy fellow that's coming on at the end of the summer that will be supporting the sustainability division for 18 months. So kind of a lot of different support for the work here. And so I'm putting together an integrated work plan that really focuses on my work, the work of the interns, and the work of the Sustainability Commission, and how can we align all of that work to be supporting one another and all working towards common goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the community. As you all know, we can have great programs, great, events, great incentives and projects, but if people don't know about these projects, that's, a big barrier and a big challenge. And so one of my priorities this year is to really look at what are our current communication and outreach channels and how can we enhance those communications with our community. So we've created a new sustainability website, rochestermn.gov/sustainability. We've kind of moved where the sustainability page is linked from the website, so I think it's much more visible and accessible to the community members. And we're also starting a new sustainability e-newsletter that will be sent out quarterly. So if you go to our website, there's a link at the top of that page to register for the new sustainability e-newsletter, and the first e-newsletter will be sent out in July. I'm also putting together a communications plan and really thinking through what are our communications channels, how can we, enhance communications and make sure that we're consistently sharing information out with the community. And then we're also, through our intern support, we're having sustainability presence at a lot of city events this summer, both through our zero waste initiative, recycling, trash, and composting at our Forward concert series this year, and then also just general city tabling, sustainability tabling, and encouraging people to sign up for our sustainability newsletter list. We're also I'm focusing on municipal sustainability. This is working with a team to analyze all of our fleet. We have a large number of fleet vehicles in all different departments, and so we're looking at how is our current fleet being managed, how is our fuel purchasing happening, and how can we start to align that a little bit more. Also working with Rochester Public Transit, they're putting together an electrification plan for not only the new Link Plus rapid transit system, but for all of their transit vehicles. And then we're also working on EV charging installations at some of our facilities, which I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. I'm working with our facilities team on phase 2 of our thermal energy network. This is our geothermal project, so we're converting our downtown City Hall, our art center, civic theater, civic center, and public library to geothermal, and then we'll be connecting those systems to create a thermal energy network so we can simultaneously heat and cool our buildings downtown through geothermal. Also supporting other grant applications that we're submitting through the city with the Department of Transportation. We applied last year for their charging and fueling infrastructure program. We're not selected, but plan to reapply for that program this year to enhance public charging throughout the community. The Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, which I'll talk about on the next slide, and then supporting Rochester Public Utilities in their grid resiliency grant that was just submitted. And then I'm also working with city departments to integrate sustainability as we gear up for the 2026-27 budget cycle, which I know feels like it's pretty far away, but in government planning, we're starting that process coming up here in a few months, and so working with departments as they put together their budget requests to integrate sustainability into those budget requests. And then our annual data collection and certification. So Rochester is a Step 5 Green Step city. We just recertified, working with our partners on our annual regional indicators, which is our greenhouse gas accounting and analysis, and then certifying with LEED for cities. And I'm here also to explain a little bit more about our federal funding through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. So this is a grant application that I just submitted last week for federal funds that will be coming to the city to specifically work on energy efficiency and electrification projects. So those projects there's kind of 3 main projects. Number 1 is working with Matt and CEE on the Electrify Rochester campaign. So this will be focused on community-wide residential energy efficiency and electrification education. We'll also focus on contractor education, so the actual companies that will be coming in to install these electric systems, and then some new construction education for developers and home builders. This really focuses on the step-by-step process of home electrification, and this project also includes residential advising services. So really being available for residents. We don't want this to be, come to this event one time and then, maybe we'll talk to you again, but we really want to support people as they're taking the information from these events and going home and looking at their systems and figuring out the age of their equipment and looking at their electric panel. And, obviously we know questions come up and people need support as they consider moving through this process of home electrification. And so we want to be there to support and advise. Second is a collaboration with the current Olmsted County and Community Development Housing Rehabilitation Program to integrate some energy efficiency and electrification measures into this program. So using this federal funding that we're receiving to fill the gaps to incentivize electrification upgrades in this current existing program. We'll also be doing some research and analysis with this program, looking at the first costs and the utility bill impacts of efficiency and electrification. And last but not least, we'll be using some of our federal funds to electrify some of our fleet vehicles internally. We have funding and support this year in 2024, and we're currently installing fleet charging, EV charging stations at 3 of our city facilities. So the funding will be used to actually fill gaps to procure electric vehicles to kind of close the gap. So we're installing the charging. Next, we're going to get the vehicles so that we can really, start to, move forward with electrification at the city. Additionally, our transit department is procuring 7 EV Blazers for a micro transit program. So that's part of the charging that's going in this year, and those are additional electric vehicles that the city is procuring in addition to the ones that this federal funding is supporting. And last but not least, I wanted to do a plug for an upcoming event that we have hosted by the City of Rochester, Destination Medical Center, and CERT, so Southeast Clean Energy Resources Team. This is an event somewhat similar to the presentation today, but we'll review state and federal tax credits, rebates, and financing tools for clean energy projects, including energy efficiency, renewable energy, and home electrification. We'll also have city teammates from our community development department. We'll have Rochester Public Utilities. We'll have our natural gas company there to share information about rebate programs and incentives available for residents. And it's really just an opportunity for residents, community members, community groups, business owners to come learn more about resources and incentives available and network to learn more about clean energy projects. So this will be hosted on Tuesday, June 25th from 3 to 5 p.m. at 2 Discovery Square. And that's it for me. I wanted to thank you all for having me here today and happy to answer any questions.
Other questions?
Of course, I did expect it to me, but, so Kayla, I asked this question of Matthew also, the testing for new construction builder. The testing for new construction is paid for by Merck right now, the gas company. So as we electrify these homes, we lose that resource. Is RPU working on a resource to replace that as new construction would move into electrifying homes?
I'd have to check with RPU on that. I know they are constantly, trying to improve their rebate programs. They're working with the state on how they are able to claim energy savings, which sets the rebate amount that RPU is able to offer customers. I can certainly check with them and follow up.
Because there is a rebate program from the gas company for new construction that goes to the builder developer. We'd hate to lose that. When you're in these talks with the city, I just want you to bring that up or keep that in mind. And then the second question I had is, we had a meeting with RPU the other day. There's concern about the infrastructure for electricity as they ramp up for EVs. And now, if we try to electrify for heat, is there a concern with the city's electrical infrastructure?
I know that RPU, we're working with RPU closely, and, you know, they, similar to other utility companies, do a lot of, you know, future planning for electrification and things like that. I'd have to talk with RPU and get back to you on that.
So I have an observation and a question. The observation is I keep reading about the movement to artificial intelligence and the demand for electricity to feel that our whole system is, we have capacity issues. And now that with climate change, we're having these huge heat episodes, which increases demand. It feels to me that there's some level of risk to rapidly electrifying until the infrastructure is built. And there's also some concern on the national level about the security of our electric grid. So it feels like the more we put into electrifying without those vulnerabilities being addressed, seems like a really big challenge. So that's an editorial comment. The question I have for you is, I'm wondering how the city, if you go back to your very first slide, trying to reduce the number, and I don't know that you're only 6 weeks on the job that you're going to answer this, but as we try to reduce the number of people who make commuter trips to our downtown by 50%, are we using our growth or a point in time? Are we saying we're going to based on 2024 commuters? Or are we looking at the kind of growth that we're anticipating because we've got this hold forward on bound, and maybe Randy knows this question, hold forward and on bound with growth, hopefully, in the number of employees, growth in the number of clinic visitors. And so what's our benchmark for reducing commuter trips to downtown? Does anyone know what the benchmark is?
I can sort of answer that as well. Feel free to chime in. And actually, Sandy Gosling would know the answer to this just as well, because it would be included in the city's comprehensive plan. So when we did that update, there were benchmarks there. It tries to meet these goals. So it is considering future growth, I would say. And it has benchmarks from, not amazing, but previous benchmarks considering the growth that we're expecting, regardless of Mayo and that.
Sandy, do you want to comment? It was suggested you might want to. Or she's still with us. So I just think it's an interesting question.
Just trying to unmute myself. I cannot for the life of me remember the exact numbers. I can picture the graphics that Taryn was just referring to. But we do have some set benchmarks, and what I have been curious about as we are starting to update our ROCOG transportation plan is whether those target numbers have changed or not. And so that's something that we will be looking into in the next few months here.
Thank you.
I can say, and I am on leave for Mayo Clinic, but I do know something of the Unbound program, and the plans were to actually have a net increase of parking spaces for patients, visitors, employees of, I think it was 45 parking spaces. So as the growth happens, and the growth in employees is going to have the same trajectory that we've seen over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, which is roughly 2 to 3% a year. So, with that, that's going to put pressure on less employees parking downtown and then looking for alternative modes of transportation.
Probably a conversation for a different place, and then won't spend any more time on that today. So I'm going to move us along. April, you've got a question about how the city and county collaborate on sustainability. I would just look to anyone from the city or the county who wishes to comment.
What I can add on that, and then I'll see if anyone else wants to chime in. We do have an energy integration team, so that group meets monthly, I believe, and it's the city, the county, the university, U of M, Rochester, and then Mayo and RPU. And so this group meets monthly to talk about energy-related topics. So I would say in regards to energy, we do collaborate with the county on a monthly basis.
And one of the yearnings that Ulster County has is that we collaborate more on waste management, but that's falls more into our lane than the city's lane, even though you count. Dave?
It's purely unofficial, but the former RPU board member still follows RPU doings. RPU has a comprehensive plan. They look out decades. That's their job, right? It takes a long time to build the resources we're talking about. So RPU is well aware of potential for growth. It's too detailed. So EVs and electrification of heating cooling systems are big ones residentially. The wild cards for them are things like cement plants, which are huge consumers of electricity, and Mayo Clinic, which just in general is a huge consumer. Those are much more worrisome to them than what they'll see from EVs and residences. So if they're on top of it, they're following that. They employ national and international consultants to help direction. This is not new news to anybody in the electric business.
All right, I'm gonna move us along. I apologize for my own editorializing a little bit here today, but sometimes you just can't resist. We have a study from Justin Boss is gonna give us a local case study of John Hardy's house. And while he's gearing up, I should also really thank our previous presenter, and I didn't mean to just gloss over you, Kayla. Thank you for being with us, and you're welcome anytime. We do meet monthly, so thank you for your presentation today.
Good.
No, thank you. You're not showing up on here. Oh. Sorry. Little technical difficulties, those of you online. We're sharing there's a room, but not up to you yet. So here we're working on it. Share. Okay, we have it. Almost ready for presentation. None to begin with.
Yay.
We all there?
We're there. Great.
Good morning again. I'm Justin Boss with Great Homes. Just want to share a project that we just completed with you guys that really leaps off of some of the information that was just shared. So we called it the John Hardy's house, just relative to its location. We like to name our projects. It doesn't really have an impact on.
So John Hardy never lived there.
Not that I know.
All right.
It's anyone I don't know. No one's lived there yet. So, this house really began out of a partnership with Olmsted County. First one was able to buy the property that was in tax forfeiture, and so this is what it used to look like. And so our initial project concept was we needed to tear down that existing home. The foundation was failing. The Barnetts had really moved in. It had sat vacant for 5 or 6 or 7 years.
The refrigerator was scary.
And it was in touch. Additional concepts we wanted to hit on were potentially do all electric, maybe a higher performance than just code. Sticking with matching up to the homes in the neighborhood, we wanted to stick with a smaller kind of cottage sized floor plan, and a pretty aggressive $200,000 construction budget. And then some sort of side benefits that I was hoping to hit on were, a more durable home and some increased climate resiliency. So, bottom left picture there, that's a house that is also in the Community Land Trust that's a block away. So that was kind of the house that we were trying to emulate, as far as the aesthetics and size. But as the design and the project evolved, we decided to do no garage and slab on grade, and
ultimately last summer, RCTC approached us, in partnering with them in their degree program that helped provide a lot of the labor. So as we finalized the design, this is where we landed. It's a 24 by 36 foot footprint. This was kind of what I would call our fourth revision. So we spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time working with folks that I'll recognize at the end, but just getting input from people on how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where should we put the utility room? Should we do a basement? Should we do slab on grade? Should we do story and a half? Kind of all those, like everything was on the table at one point. But this was where we landed. That window on the left side is 3 foot wide, and that could easily be taken out and a door be put in there if the future owner were to build either an attached or detached garage without. So relatively easily, the framing's all set up for it to just pop a door in.
You're talking about the window on the kitchen?
In the dining room, yep. Then, so some additional features that we were hitting on, we did 3 foot doorways. We have no steps, so a little more accessible home. An older client ended up purchasing it, or somebody bought it now and they could just age in place very easily there. We added things like we put block